All right, guys. So this discussion came up on stream yesterday, so I just figured I'd make a video about it. So the discussion is between the Horn of Fury and then the Karauk's War Drums. Uh, the Karauk's War Drums you can get before the Horn of Fury, right? And they both actually boost rage. So if you just look at the what they actually do, right? The Karauk's War Drum, uh, on any basic attack, there's a 10% chance to grant 50 extra rage to the wearer's troops and up to 2 nearby allies, right? So essentially, if you have enough allies around, whether it's your marches or your allies' marches, when it triggers, you could grant 150 rage total, right? Divided up between three marches, and there's a 3-second cooldown. The Horn of Fury, instead of 10% chance, there's a 30% chance to trigger on the basic attack, and you get 50 rage, right? So this one, you're less likely for it to trigger. A third is likely, right? 10% compared to 30%. But you're actually going to be getting essentially 3 times as much rage divvied up between 3 marches. This one, a lot more likely to trigger, but then it's only 50 rage for the march you're using, right? So the question is which one's actually better, and then which one should you invest in? Okay, so a couple of things to consider with this. I think the Horn is clearly better. Okay, the reason why it's better is because one, there's no cooldown, right? So if the War Drum triggers, for the next 3 turns, essentially it can't trigger again. So even though the essentially the rage per turn is going to be the same if you do the math, right? Because 30% chance 50 rage or 10% chance 150 rage, the math is the same, but if it triggers and then for the next 3 seconds you can't trigger, then the Horn actually will come out on top. And then the second big argument for the Horn is every time it triggers, you're going to get the full benefit of this rage. Whereas for the War Drums, if you don't have 2 other allies around, then you're not going to get that benefit, right? And ideally, most of the time you're finding a ball, right? Someone's going to benefit, but I could think of a number of scenarios where you're not going to benefit from it. So if they cost the same, I think you clearly want to invest in the Horn. But what makes this a little bit more complicated is if you look at the material cost, right, for the War Drum, it only costs 100 legendary mats, whereas when you go to the Horn, it costs 120 legendary mats, right? There's a lot of people that swear by the Horn, like, oh, it's better. Like, mathematically, it's not, okay? Like, it's not because you're getting the 50 rage, whether you're getting the Horn or the War Drums, so you can't really even make a case about over-raging. What you're really, like, debating between is, okay, would you rather have something that's slightly worse, probably not 20% worse, but it costs 20% less mats? Or would you rather have the Horn, which is better, but also costs 20% more mats, right? I think this argument was probably even closer before. So if you guys didn't know, more recently, Lilith made it where you could get a lot more season coins. This is within like the last 2 months in KVK, so you could get a lot more coins, which is required by the Horn. And then also they made it where you can get 2 blueprints per KVK now, as opposed to the 1 before, right? Before, you were just able to get Horn blueprints a lot easier, and it actually made a lot of sense to just go with the Horn, just because it's cheaper, it's easier to get the blueprints. Then you can actually save the season coins for something else, like a Ring of Doom or something else. Whereas now, that isn't as big of a deal. Having said that, it's still not definitive to me if it's worth investing in the Horn over the War Drums, because if you think about it, for most of the equipment, right, you get a pity crit. So if you don't get a crit for that equipment on the 5th craft, you'll get an automatic crit, right? Now, unless you're like one of those people that's running like 5 marches, right, you're probably not going to get that for like the troop type equipment, like infantry, archer, or cav. But where you are likely to get that is actually with the accessories, right? And for the most part, Ring of Doom, right? You want 5 of these if you're going to run 5 marches. And then you can either choose between Horn or War Drums. War Drums cost less, but it's slightly worse. And then probably a little bit easier to get more blueprints. The Horn is better, but it costs more blueprints. And it's probably a little harder to get the blueprints. That's actually the decision-making process there. Okay. Now, me personally, I plan on getting 5 Horns. I have 7 marches right now: 2 infantry, 2 cav, and 2 archer. And then my 7th march is actually a siege right now. So I do plan on getting 5 Horns. But I also already have a War Drum, and I'll probably just keep it at 1. Now, the reason why I'm doing 5 of one and then one of the others, because now I'm kind of diversifying the blueprints too, right? Because there are events like the egg event. There's probably a couple other I can't think of off my head, or even like the accessory choice chest where you could choose the war drums. Whereas right now in this game, the only way to get the horn is through KVK, right? So being able to maybe passively get some war drum blueprint fragments, so I can actually eventually, when I get there, actually upgrade or awaken the war drum to a higher level, while also being able to get the horn. I think is going to be a better play, right? Just because with the current system, right, if you want to upgrade all the way to Awaken 5, you need to craft it, and then Iconic is Awaken 1, and then you need 4 more blueprints. And then let's just say you're unlucky, you don't get a crit, then theoretically you can need 4 more blueprints just to crit the thing, right? So it's going to take a long time, but if you're just kind of planning for the future, I think you want to choose between the horn or the war drums. If you're running 5 marches or more, choose one where you want to get to 5, but then also it's not a bad idea to at least craft 1 or 2 of the other. Once you get to 5 of one, I don't think it's as big of a deal if you choose one or the other. But what you don't want to do is do like 4 war drums and 3 horns, right? Or something like that, where you're not actually taking advantage of this like pity crit system. Now, if you critted it already, I guess the discussion will change. But if you're just going to ask me which one is better, I think it's pretty clear that the horn is better because it doesn't have the cooldown, and because you're always going to get the full benefit of the rage, but also it costs more and it's a little bit harder to get the blueprints. Okay, so if you're deciding between the two, that's really the debate. I don't think you could really go wrong choosing one or the other, but that's kind of the discussion there. Okay, now if you watched all the way to the end, you haven't yet, please like and subscribe to the video. Especially the like part really helps. I would prefer if you subscribe too, but that's up to you. Right? But again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.